Miaoli official apologizes after offensive message sent to son of late director. HP announces major layoffs in Taiwan, including R&D and executives. Wen-je facing bribery allegations in Living Mall scandal. NASA launches mission to Jupiter's moon Europa. Pope urged to reverse church ban on gender-affirming care. Boris Johnson claims Queen Elizabeth II had bone cancer. North Korea blows up parts of cross-border roads with the South. Panda pair en route to National Zoo from China.
Hello, I'm Wade Lee. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Wednesday, October 16th, and here are your top stories. And for today's Taiwan's news, Miaoli County Magistrate Zong Dongqing apologized after an event organizer insulted Qi Tinghuan, son of late director Qi Polin. The organizer was dismissed, and Zong expressed deep regrets, thanking Qi for his understanding and hoping he would return to share more about Taiwan. HP plans to lay off 20 to 30 R&D employees, including senior executives, in Taiwan through a two-stage process. This comes as part of its global restructuring strategy, influenced by geopolitical factors and the Taiwan Plus One initiative, with up to 6,000 jobs expected to be cut worldwide by 2025. Despite improved Q3 revenues, HP's net profit fell 16.4%, prompting further cost-cutting measures. Wen-je, chairman of the Taiwan People's Party, is under investigation for bribery related to the Living Mall case. Reports indicate that a USB drive linked to Ke contained records of political donations, including 500 million NT dollars from Eastern Media president Wan Lingling and 300 million NT dollars from gambling tycoon Chen Ying-chu. As the investigation unfolds, over 10 prominent figures have been questioned by prosecutors. And in global news, marking the latest foray in space exploration, NASA has launched its first mission to explore Jupiter's moon, Europa, to determine if it harbors conditions suitable for life. The Europa Clipper, launched on October 14th from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, carried into orbit by SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket. According to a press release from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the agency will invest approximately $5.2 billion over the mission nearly 2-decade span, which began in 2015 and is set to conclude in 2034.
Europa is the fourth largest of Jupiter's 95 moons, and planetary scientists believe this unique moon harbors a salty ocean beneath its icy crust. NASA says the mission aims to answer the question: does the global subsurface ocean contain the organic compounds and energy sources necessary to sustain life? Gina DiBraccio, director of NASA's Planetary Science Division, said, "As an ocean world, Europa is very intriguing. This mission will help us understand a complex piece of our solar system." NASA's 100-foot-long, approximately 58-foot-wide Clipper probe is the largest spacecraft the agency has built for a planetary mission and will travel 1.8 billion miles to Europa. The journey is long, with the flight spanning roughly 5.5 years, entering orbit around Jupiter in April 2030.
Pope Francis faced calls to overturn the Catholic Church's ban on gender-affirming care for transgender people on Saturday, during talks with LGBTQ activists at the Vatican. The 80-minute private meeting, held at the guest house, included a Catholic sister who worked with LGBTQ people, a member of the transgender community, and a U.S. doctor who helps run a clinic providing gender-affirming hormonal care for adults. The meeting comes 6 months after the Vatican's doctrinal office firmly rejected gender-affirming care.
The rejection stated that it risks threatening the unique dignity the person has received from the moment of conception. LGBTQ groups sharply criticized the Vatican document, noting that the doctrinal office did not seek input from transgender people about their experiences before making the decision. Pope Francis has been credited with steering the Catholic Church toward a more welcoming stance on the LGBTQ community, even allowing priests to bless same-sex couples on a case-by-case basis. However, earlier this year, he used a derogatory Italian term for LGBTQ people, for which the Vatican later issued an apology on his behalf.
Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has controversially broken royal protocol by claiming in his upcoming memoir that Queen Elizabeth II was suffering from bone cancer before her death. The book, serialized this week in the Daily Mail, for which Johnson also writes, recalls the monarch's final days at Balmoral, Scotland. Johnson formally stepped down just 2 days before Elizabeth II's death in September 2022. Since then, there has been widespread speculation about the exact cause of her death.
In the excerpt, he wrote, "I had known for a year or more that she had a form of bone cancer, and her doctors were worried that she could decline sharply at any time." Johnson's account is the first public indication by a former senior government official regarding what the Queen's cause of death might have been. Johnson is not the first Prime Minister to reflect on his time in office and interactions with the late Queen in a memoir. Former British leaders Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and David Cameron did so as well, but only in general terms and without the vivid detail provided by Johnson. Buckingham Palace maintains a policy of not commenting on books about the royal family, and has neither confirmed nor denied Johnson's claims.
South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said Tuesday that North Korea had blown up sections of its intern Korean road on its side of the heavily militarized border between the two Koreas. At around midday, some parts of the road north of the military demarcation line dividing the countries were blown up. South Korea's military had ramped up surveillance and its readiness in response. Seoul had warned on Monday that Pyongyang was getting ready to blow up the roads.
Tensions on the Korean peninsula have been rising amid an escalating war of words after North Korea accused its rival of sending drones over the country's capital. North Korea claimed the drones had scattered a huge number of anti-North leaflets over the city, describing it as a political and military provocation that could lead to armed conflict. A spokesman for South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff declined on Monday to answer questions about whether the South Korean military or civilians had flown the alleged drones. Kim Jong-un had overseen a meeting with defense and security officials on Monday to discuss how to respond to the enemy's serious provocation that violated the sovereignty of the DPRK.
A pair of giant pandas began their journey on Monday from China to the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, where they will begin a 10-year residency in the nation's capital, weeks before the presidential election. Baoli, a 3-year-old male, and Qingbao, a 3-year-old female, are the latest panda to be sent to the U.S. after a series of repatriation from American Zoo raised concerns that geopolitical tension could be hurting panda diplomacy, a longtime symbol of friendship between the world's two largest economies.
The pair left for the airport from the China Conservation and Research Center's Dujiangyan Panda Base in Sichuan Province. The National Zoo has been without any pandas since last November, when adult pandas Mei Xiang and Tian Tian and their 3-year-old male cub, Xiao Qiji, returned to China after efforts to renew their loan agreement failed. The bears had long been one of the zoo's main attractions, with the adult pandas having been there since 2000. During a visit to the U.S. that same month, President Xi Jinping and President Joe Biden has been working to improve U.S.-China relations after they reached their lowest point in decades, hinted that more pandas might be on the way.
The answer for yesterday was B, automation. Automation has significantly reduced the need for manual labor in manufacturing. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of North Korea blows up parts of cross-border roads with the South. Number 1, escalate, 升级, 逐步加剧. The conflict in the region began to escalate after the recent attacks. Number 2, scatter, 散布, 分散. She scattered the seeds across the garden to encourage new growth. Number 3, provocation, 挑衅, 激怒. His remarks was seen as a provocation that could lead to further conflict. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's it for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune into Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Wen-je, your host. I'll see you next time.